With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Arnold Smith, who writes, Paramount's new movie, The Rhythm Section, budgeted at $50 million, flopped with a $2.9 million opening this past weekend, according to Variety. If this holds, it will replace the movie Hoot as the worst opening weekend for a movie that played on 3,000 or more screens, according to Box Office Mojo. What are your thoughts on this being the latest flop for Paramount, and what the heck went wrong here with Rhythm Section? All right, thanks a lot for sending in your thoughts, man. And yes, look, there's no other way to put this. I am a Blake Lively fan. I like Blake Lively very much.
Me too.
And I was quite interested in this movie. Full disclosure, with everything else going on, I haven't had a chance to go see it. I also started hearing from people that they didn't like it that much. The critic reviews weren't fantastic, so I've delayed seeing it myself. But I've been looking forward to it because I love Blake Lively. There is no sugarcoating this, though. While this is not the worst opening weekend ever for any wide release film, for a film that's gotten at least 3,000 screens, this is the worst in history. This is what we get out of Box Office Mojo. Further down the list and just making its way into the top 10 is Paramount's The Rhythm Section. Signals heading into the weekend weren't positive, but this one fell short of even the most pessimistic of expectations, bringing in just $2.8 million for the weekend from 3,049 locations for a $918 per theater average, the worst opening ever for a film debuting in over 3,000 locations. The question that we then need to ask ourselves, and the question that will, of course, obviously come up is, and what they ask in the email, what the hell happened? How does this happen? What went wrong? And Rob, I gotta believe it comes down to one thing, and that is this. You and I talked about the trailer when the trailer hit, right? The trailer which hit just 1 month before the movie came out. Now, that's fine. I mean, we've seen the first John Wick had its first trailer come out 1 month before the movie came out, right? But I literally, and I can only speak for myself, I literally didn't see another single piece of advertising or marketing for this film at all.
Right.
And I had to go out of my way to watch it myself on YouTube. I didn't see it. Now, again, I'm only speaking from my experience, but I have not seen a single billboard, a single poster, a single in-theater trailer. I'm not saying they didn't play trailers in theaters. I'm just saying I haven't seen one myself. So other than that first time going and tracking it down, now look, The Rhythm Section is a type of movie that was never going to be a $300 million movie anyway. That's assumed. We understand that. But Rob, I just got to go with the assumption that they didn't market this thing. They simply did not market it. They chose to not put any money into the marketing of this thing. They didn't raise any public awareness. You combine that with the fact of not really positive word of mouth. They held off the review embargo until the day before the film came out. I mean, there's a lot of things adding up, but the bottom line, I think if they gave this thing a proper marketing campaign, I still think it loses money, but it probably isn't the worst opening in history for any film over 3,000 screens. Rob, I know you're probably bummed out about this as well because we enjoyed, we both like Blake Lively, we like Jude Law, that we thought the trailer looked good at the time. But if you had to put your finger on anything that you kind of maybe feel is most directly responsible for this negatively record-breaking performance of this movie, what would you say it is?
Well, first thing, you're absolutely right. I mean, I was excited about this movie because it was produced by Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson, the producers
James
of
Bond team.
Bond. Yeah, now, I thought it was really interesting. They wanted to get involved in a franchise that had a female protagonist, and this is actually based on a pretty well-regarded series of novels. So it looked to me like they had a winner. And even when we were at CinemaCon, all they released at CinemaCon was the logo. They didn't even have any key art at the very end of the Paramount presentation. And I found that disappointing. But I think you're right. they hadn't. You would never know. One, this is based on a series of popular books. You didn't know this movie was even coming out. Blake Lively, even when she's in a movie like The Shallows, I mean, her films do well. Age of Adeline, I think, is one of the great unsung fantasy romances, maybe ever, that she was in, and she's just delightful. I love her as a screen presence. And nobody knew, Paramount's had a pretty bad string of movies this year, and maybe they just felt like they didn't want to throw good money after bad. I mean, I know this had some production issues. They had to halt production when Blake Lively was injured. And I also think part of the reason, Reed Morano, the director of this film, really does not have a lot of experience making a feature. She, of course, directed the pilot for The Handmaid's Tale, which was great. But most of her work she's been a cinematographer. And then they tapped her to direct this film. And I think, having not seen it myself, but I'm going to go see it, John, because I want to see what the Broccoli's are going to do. And this kind of movie appeals to me. But after reading these things, I think a lot of it comes down to the reason they didn't market the movie is because they knew the movie wasn't good enough to put money into, and they had contractual obligations. And I think, at some point you have to blame the filmmakers, and I think that first and foremost begins with the direction. And I think maybe Reed Morano was maybe out of her league making this film.
There's been some suggestion, and I don't normally give much to the idea of the titles, because a title's a title, whatever. But the title of a movie like this, Rhythm Section, right. I've seen a lot of people point to the fact that they would see the title Rhythm Section. They had no idea what the movie was because there wasn't much marketing for it, and they think it's about a high school drum line. Do you think the title might have had anything to do with it as well?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's all part of it. But then that goes down to marketing. I mean, the Rhythm Section was the title of the book, and it didn't say anywhere like from the explosive international bestseller by blah, blah, blah. They always usually do that. And this film, the marketing of it was even the trailer itself was murky. What's really going on in this movie? And apparently the movie doesn't even deliver on a great action film either. It's this introspective, it's more of an introspective movie about a woman and her grief, and she tends to run away from the action rather than dive into it. And I think that all of these things are contributing factors to the not success of this film. And again, when a film doesn't succeed, especially if it's a literary adaptation, I take no pleasure in that. It does look like it was well made. I love the actress, and I wanted this movie to be good. So, and I'm still going to go see it.
All right, guys, question is for you. Unfortunately, Rhythm Section, breaking records, all the wrong ones. Worst opening ever in cinematic history for a film that opened on at least 3,000 screens. What do you feel might be the main contributing factor? Was it like me? There was never any awareness brought up to it. They didn't do any marketing. Do you feel like some others do? It was a completely misleading title. They have no idea what they thought this movie was. Do you think there's something else involved? What do you guys attribute it to? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right.